managing technology integration in the classroom.
Hi, today I would like to talk about one-to-one technology integration. One-to-one technology integration means that for every student in the class, there is a device for them to use during instruction. I would like to begin by listing some general best practices for one-to-one technology integration from edutopia.com. The first one is define the goals of your one-to-one program. What is the purpose of doing this in your classroom? What do you hope to accomplish by it? The second is defining the role of the device in your classroom. What are you planning to use it for? Number 3, model how to harness the device's power. So sometimes you have to show the students what exactly you're planning to do with the device and model how to use it to be most effective and use it for the purpose as a tool in your classroom. Number 4, sometimes you have to put it away. So put it away when it's appropriate. You're not always going to need it. It's not always going to be the most helpful thing. So you have to know when to use it and when it's going to be most effective. 5, you have to teach, model, and support information literacy. Just because students know how to look up funny videos online, it doesn't always mean that they really know how to effectively use the internet. Sometimes you have to model how to research and effectively filter through information online and to show them how to use what they find online. So one-to-one technology integration is a pretty new form of technology integration in the classroom, but it offers a variety of advantages. However, with any classroom practice, thought must be given to how to best integrate it in the classroom. And the following presentation presents some advantages of using a laptop, iPad, and a cell phone as a one-to-one technology integration model. And it gives a list of some best practices for doing that in the classroom.
So the first technology we're going to talk about are laptops. So some advantages about implementing laptops into the classroom: they're quicker and easier for note-taking. They make student collaboration and research for projects more fun and easier. The mobility of the devices allows students to work in a variety of seating arrangements. They can work in groups together, or they can work alone, and it's easy because the laptops are portable. And laptop integration in the classroom gives students who don't have access to technology at home, it gives them a chance to develop and practice basic technology skills that will be helpful throughout their life. So some best practices for managing this one-to-one laptop technology integration in the classroom. The first one is setting a laptop policy and communicating it to the students. This would include how and when laptops are permitted, and it would also include communicating and making available a responsible use policy. The second would be identifying a laptop-free zone in the classroom. There are going to be students who, if not everyone's on a laptop, they can't handle the distraction of seeing other people's screens and stuff while they're trying to listen to you. So you need to provide a row in the front, left, or right where they can come and sit and they don't have to be distracted by the screens. And then third, you need to make sure you have the support from classroom infrastructure for the laptop use. So are there enough power outlets in your classroom? Is there equipment for connecting the laptops to projectors? And then you need to see if there's any bandwidth limitations in your classroom. The following video is a teacher who is introducing his classroom laptop policy to his students.
Some of these things are pretty self-explanatory. I'm not going to go that in depth. If you ever think that you need a refresher, I have it up here. Student guidelines, this is the same exact thing. Okay? The other thing I told you about was how nice and clean that the cart looked when you came into the room. That's how it should look when you leave the room as well. And then the other thing up here is just some troubleshooting tips. Obviously there's going to be adults in here, but I'll try to help you out as much as I can. We might have to refer to some troubleshooting tips that might help us out with any problems, but I think we should be okay. So here's the do's. This is everything that we are going to advocate that you do. Carry the laptop with 2 hands. Close it before carrying it. Walk slow. Place it on your desk securely. Make sure your hands are clean and dry. Now, for you guys, that might be something to really take into consideration.
So another tip for implementing laptops into your classroom, a management consideration would be when you're wanting to get the students' attention and they're busy working on their laptops, ask them to tilt their screens down 45 degrees. That way they are not distracted by what's going on their laptop and they can focus on what you're saying. The second technology we're going to talk about is iPad one-to-one integration. Some advantages about iPads in the classroom: they save money by combining multiple useful tools into one tablet. The touchscreen is engaging and interactive. Students are able to move quickly between apps, so they can be researching something on the internet and then quickly move to an app that allows them to document that research and create a PowerPoint presentation or something like that. And then schools can save money by switching to paperless textbooks and putting them like digital versions of textbooks on their iPads. They're very easy for young children to navigate. I can testify to this from being in kindergarten, first, and second grade classrooms. Children can generally be handed an iPad, and whether it's from prior experience with their parents' iPhones or whatever, they're just generally very easy for young children to figure out and kind of explore on their own, and they can generally do things on iPads without a lot of instruction. And iPads are also very lightweight and easy to transport, which is also good, especially for young children. So some best practices for iPad integration in the classroom. So one, customized to classroom needs. So this includes everything from labeling your iPads by, putting a 1 on them, putting a 1 on its case and a 1 on the iPad so the child knows that this iPad goes with this sleeve, and you can even assign iPads to certain students. But also within the iPad itself, customize those apps to what you need in your classroom. So going along with that, you need to make sure apps are effective. Make sure the apps you have on there are actually beneficial long term, and especially if you're purchasing them. iPads are portable, and make sure you use them this way. You can have children take pictures with them and do research on the spot. And then you need to consider your technology support. Can the school's wireless infrastructure support this iPad use? And then you need to consider things like how will work be shared and collected, and will cloud storage be used, things like that. So a tip for using iPads in the classroom: have a small group of students test drive new apps and report on usability and function. So if you have a new game or something that you've played around, you always want to explore it first, but that you've played around with it and you just want to see how your students will handle it, have a small group of your students designated to test drive it and just experiment with it and see what they can do with it. So the third technology we're going to talk about today is mobile devices or smartphones. Some advantages of implementing smartphones into your classroom: they are easily accessed on field trips, outdoors, etc. for taking pictures, kind of like iPads, or doing research on the spot. Students perform well after using educational apps, so you can download educational apps onto phones and have the students do this to practice at home, when they're not at school, and develop some of these skills. And they're great for interacting and polling in the classroom using applications like Poll Everywhere, etc. So some best practices as far as managing and using smartphones in the classroom: you need to establish a classroom policy. So some of these things would include setting your cell phones on silent. You don't want to have them ringing in class. Keep cell phones visible at all times. This kind of goes against what you think normally, because a lot of teachers totally ban cell phones in the classroom, but if you're using them, you want to be able to see them so you know what the students are doing with them. And only use phones for academic purposes. The second is very similar to the laptop policy of having a cell phone free zone. So a place in your classroom where cell phones are not allowed and they're not going to serve as a distraction for a certain activity. And then third, collect cell phones before test. Cell phones do not need to be allowed during test. So one classroom management system that some people have adopted is the traffic light system. Especially, it's more for using, BYOD, bring your own device, which is normally a cell phone. So if you would have like a display of a traffic light in your classroom, and if it's on red, that means all technology should be put away. If it's on yellow, it means students can have their phone out as long as it's for academic purposes. And if it's on green, it means students should have their phones out because they're going to be needed for the classroom activity. And one thing you can do to encourage proper use of cell phones in your classroom is have an incentive for staying on task and following the cell phone policy rules. So you can reward the student who uses their phone for the best academic purpose during class. And this encourages creativity and staying on task and thinking towards using your phone for the right things in the classroom.
Adding technology in the classroom in a one-to-one manner may take some forethought and time, but in the end it's very engaging for students and well worth it. In the words of David Warlick, we need technology in every classroom and in every student and teacher's hand because it's the pen and paper of our time and it's the lens through which we experience much of our work.
So in conclusion, these are some classroom management considerations and tips for using iPads, laptops, and cell phones in the classroom, and some things you can consider when you're trying to implement one-to-one technology integration in your classroom.